双语音标领航，注音阅读启蒙，叶兴阳有声读物。
Down the Mother Lode, Pioneer Tales of California, by Vivia Hemphill. Forward. So many inquiries have been made as to exactly where and what is the Mother Lode. The geologist and the historian agree as to its location and composition, but the old miners and sojourners of the vanished golden era give strangely different versions of it. Some of these are here set down, if not all for your enlightenment at least, I hope, for your entertainment. That is, after all, the principal aim of these tales of the old days in California, that are gone for good. Mark Twain says in his preface to Roughing It that there is a great deal of information in his work which he regrets very much, but which really could not be helped, as information seems to stew out of me naturally, like the precious odor of roses out of the otter. These stories make no such particular claim. They are merely historical fragments of their everyday life, gathered from a passing generation before they shall be finally lost. Each one is based upon truth. Somewhere, sometime, someplace, certain characters lived the scenes and actions here described. The title, Mother Lode, has been used in its broader sense as exemplifying the source of all gold in California, and the life which arose from it. The mining engineer said, "The Mother Lode runs south from El Dorado County to the lower boundary of Mariposa County. It stretches past the towns of Sutter Creek, Jackson, San Andreas, Angels Camp and the road to Yosemite far down below Coulterville. The lode begins suddenly and ends as suddenly, and though we have searched up and down the state, we have never been able to pick it up again." "Has it any relation to the Comstock lode?" was asked. "None whatever. Curiously enough, in Nevada City and vicinity, it would appear that at one time in the earth's making, a great fissure opened in forming California, and a wedge of Nevada mining country was pushed into it. North of there the California stratas begin again. But it was always my belief that these localities were on the Mother Lode, as well as the Georgetown and Auburn country. Many persons are apparently under that impression, but the geological surveys of the government place it in the exact location I have given you." The old miner, 49er, said, "We hunted most all o' our lives, lookin' for her. We called her the Mother Lode, because we thought that all the gold in the state must have come from her and washed down the rivers onto the bars where we found it. We thought she'd be pure gold, and 100 feet wide and go on, world without end. We looked, and after quartz minin' comin', we dug and dug. But we never found the old girl except in here and there. Joe Dance, that old prospector that died last year, he lost his mind lookin' for the big lode. Made some rich strikes in his day. Joe did. But he never could stop to work 'em. He was always waitin' for the mother of 'em all, he said, who'd put him on the road to the heart o' molten gold in the middle o' the earth. We old fellows tramped all the way through the hills with only a burro for company most of the time. And you'll ride down a broad paved way. Soon, in your automobile, you'll go in days, where it took us months. And some brainy young engineer will locate the old girl, most likely, in newfangled ways that were unknown in our time. Well, the world whirls fast nowadays. Guess they'll need all the gold in the old girl's lap to keep on greasin' the machinery. I take off my hat to this generation. I hope they'll find it," Hittel says. The Mother Lode is one of the most extraordinary metalliferous veins in the world. Gold-bearing lodes usually range only 5 or 6 miles, but this can be traced for more than 60. The rock is a hard and white quartz, rich in very fine particles of gold, and the vein varies in width from a foot to 30 feet. There are in some portions of its coarse side branches or companion veins, as they are sometimes called, making the total width nearly 100 feet. Nor is the direction of the lode always in a straight line, though usually found within half a mile of what may be considered its normal course. It is sometimes found as far as 2 or 3 miles from it, and there are cases of other lodes, 3 in all, entirely distinct, which in some instances approach so close as to be confounded with it. There are numerous mines along the whole length of the lode, famous for having yielded their millions. One quartz ledge is said to have yielded for a long time 2/3 gold. They say of the Morgan mine, at Carson's Creek near Malone's, it appeared to be rich beyond parallel. On one occasion, $110, 0.00 worth of gold was thrown down at a single blast. Many expeditions were made in search of the fabled Great Lode, but all attempts were vain. The old spread-eagle judge said, "Yes, sir. The Mother Lode dips up in a bit of a circle with no beginning and no end, in the western foothills of the Sierra Mountains. Down about Malone's, and Sonora, and Angel's Camp it goes, and through Table Mountain, and under Jackass Hill. It comes north, and north, past Coloma, and Auburn, to Nevada City, and then it disappears." I remembered the engineer's statement, but was silent. It was the haunt of Hart, and Twain, and Canfield in the north. It was the bank of such men as Hopkins, Crocker, Huntington, and Stanford. The foundation of one of the greatest states in the Union, the Mother Lode, the mother of gold. Child, my old eyes have watched it spread for nearly 90 years, the power of gold, and of the men who came to seek it. The influence of gold controlled by the human intellect. I am old and tired, and soon I shall sleep, but the old see clearly, too clearly, that which they are leaving, and that to which they pass. Thus, facing the stars, we go out amongst them into darkness. I quoted,
softly.
Not to darkness, but to eternal light, to rise again from the Mother Lode to mingle in the busy lives of men, who mocketh his messengers with 2, and 3, and 4 pairs of wings.
Exactly.
To be born again, and yet again. The real mother vein of gold was imbued in the men shaped by the life of the frontier. It was the cornerstone of great fortunes, of families, of enterprises, of achievements which are peculiarly California's own. It was the clearing-house and open sesame of the vast trade of the Orient which is just coming into being, the foundation for the bridge of gold which shall reach across the seas, a fit monument to posterity which shall be erected with all the lightness and grace and stability of the present cultured generations, born with their feet in the flowers grown from the mother gold of decent manhood and glorious womanhood, the precious metals of the spirit. Unalloyed and unafraid. They are the true Mother Lode, the born of the seekers of gold, greater, far, than the crazed brains of the old prospectors had the power to conceive, a further-reaching, broader arc than the most wondrous rainbow of their imaginings born of dreams, and built of hunger and despair. So shall we find, at last, the Mother Lode, the virginity of the essence of creation, the beginning and the end, the curve of the circle which is unchanging, insoluble, omniscient, which shall return to that which created it, which is all, which is God. 49. We have worked our claims, we have spent our gold, our barks are strand on the bars, we are battered and old, yet at night we behold outcroppings of gold in the stars, where the rabbits play, where the quail all day pipe on the chaparral hill. A few more days, and the last of us lays his pick aside, and is still. We are wreck and stray, we are cast away, poor battered old hulks and spars, but we hope and pray, on the judgment day, we shall strike it, up in the stars. Joaquin Miller. Contents. One Sunday in Stinson's Bar, the Tom Bell's Stronghold, the hanging of Charlie Price, Rattlesnake Dick, Indian Vengeance, Grizzly Bob of Snake Gulch, Cully Coppers, the Jack, the Race of the Shoestring Gamblers, the Dragon, and the Tomahawk. The Barstow Lynching. One Sunday in Stinson's Bar. On that broad stage of Empire One, whose footlights were the setting sun, whose flats a distant background rose in trackless peaks of endless snows. Here genius bows, and talent waits to copy that but one creates. Bret Hart. Nowadays, when you want to go from San Francisco to the Sierra Nevada country, you step into your perfectly good Packard, or whatever it is, all the way down to a motorcycle sidecar. And you ferry across the bay and the straits. And if the motor cop isn't around, you come shooting up the highway 40 miles an hour. And at the end of a glorious 5-hour run, you are there. In the early 50s, when there was less to see, too, you took more time to it. You came to Sacramento on the riverboat. Then if you were rich, you bought a horse or a mule and rode for the rest of your journey. If you were poor, or thrifty perhaps, you walked, or tried to get a ride on one of the ox freight teams which plied their way across Hagen Grant to Auburn and Dutch Flat, or to Folsom and Coloma. Later a railway was built as far as Auburn Station, then situated at a point 3 miles east of Loomis, which was at that time called Pino. Nothing remains of Auburn Station, but the roadbed of the old railway is still to be found in certain wooded tracts which have not given way to the fruit ranches, and the highway from Fair Oaks into Folsom follows the old cuts and grades for several miles. In the days preceding and immediately following the discovery of gold in California, building was very difficult. Every stick of lumber in my grandfather's house came by ship around the Horn, and the fruit trees, grapevines, flowers, even bees, for his lovely garden, were all sent from Europe. In the smaller settlements there was seldom more than one large building which could be used for social purposes, and this was often the card room or bar room in connection with the hotel of the town. So here is the tale that was told of one Sunday in Stinson's bar room. In the late 50s at Auburn Station, they tried to give a ball once a year at Stinson's. Persons came to it from 30 miles about, particularly if they were women, and every woman divided each dance among 4 men. When a man invited a lady to come to a dance, in many instances he insisted upon the privilege of buying her a silken gown and slippers to wear, and this was not considered unusual, nor was she in any way obligated to him for it. There were so few ladies that they were treated as little short of divinities. This Saturday night there had been no dance, and the men at Gentleman Jack's table at Stinson's had played 3-card Monte on through the dawn and the sunrise, and into broad daylight. The door was pushed open, letting in a rush of cool, sweet air which guttered the candles set in old bottles, and drove the heavy fog of tobacco smoke toward the blackened ceiling. A voice boomed forth. "Come on,
Now,
gentlemen. 2 ladies have come with posies in tall silver vases and a white altar cloth for this table. The preacher's coming over from Folsom, and there will be church held here in 1 hour. He's a busy man today. An infant will be given a license to travel the long and uncertain road to heaven, and a pair of happy lovers will be made one. One unhappy pair. It's William Duncan. He's intoxicated again," drawled Gentleman Jack, stretching his graceful length and smiling at a long, aristocratic figure crouched over a small table in a corner. His last strike turned out to be only a small pocket, and so he drowns his woes in liquor. As usual, he bowed to his recent card partners. "Gentlemen, I am sincerely sorry for your losses this night. I shall sleep an hour before the holy man arrives." He sauntered out, stuffing a buckskin bag of gold dust into his pocket. "There lies my pocket, in his pocket," muttered Duncan.
no,
Stinson, raising his voice authoritatively. "I shall not go out. It is my desire to pray for my sins today, asterisk. And there has a letter come from overseas which I must read if I can. If I can." In an hour the room was cleared of smoke, greasy cards, poker chips, and empty bottles. The bar was in a small room apart. The poker table, supplemented with a box, was covered with a handsome altar cloth flanked by huge silver candlesticks and vases which had been carried across the plains. Every individual in the community came to church and stayed afterward for the christening. At least 20 men expressed a wish to be godfather to the baby, and the proud mother accepted all offers. When the christening was over, William Duncan lurched to his feet, his high-bred face full of tenderness, his long-fingered, fine-grained hands poised over the rosy child, while he quoted, May time who sheds his blight o'er all, and daily dooms some joy to death. O'er thee let years so gently fall, they shall not crush one flower beneath.
Ah.
Here comes the bride. All the world's a stage. Let us on with the next scene. And he reeled back to his little table in the corner. The kissing and congratulations after the wedding were interrupted by the shouts of a man on horseback and riding hard. Where's the minister? Send for Doc Miller. That beast of a Mexican horse thief. He shot Jim Muldoon down at Dalton's bar. Jim caught he stealing his horse. And I'm afraid the dirty greasers killed him. We got him, though, before he skipped. Somebody go down to Rattlesnake for Doc Miller. They're bringing 'em both here. When Doc Miller saw Muldoon stretched on the barroom table, the same table which a few minutes before had served as an altar, he shook his head. He will be gone in half an hour,
he said.
The men standing about began taking off their hats. I wish to write home, whispered Muldoon. The young mother handed her baby to its father and, seizing pencil and paper, ran forward. The minister opened his prayer book at the service for the dying. When that service had been read, and what had been Muldoon carried away to be made ready for the last sleep, only the minister and the tall Englishman were left in the barroom. In the midst of life we are in death, muttered Duncan. True, rebuked the other, so live well the life which the Lord, thy God,
hath provided thee.
Well, Duncan laughed aloud. It is too late, man o' God. There is no place in the world for a younger son. The minister had not heard. He sprang toward the open window, calling, Wait! It is written, Thou shalt not kill. Bring him in, like just and honest men, for a hearing. He may be a horse thief and a murderer, but you shall take the rope from his neck, and he shall speak in his own defense before he goes to his Maker. So a hearing was given, although grudgingly, and with audible grumbling, by the friends of Muldoon across the table, which had so lately been his beer. But in the end they took the Mexican out for the short-cut to retribution. 2 hours later, around the same table was solemnized the funeral service of Jim Muldoon. The minister would not return for 6 weeks. It must be held at once. Gentleman Jack gave a suit of finest black broadcloth for a shroud, and the little bride, keeping one flower from her wedding bouquet, placed the rest in the dead man's hands. She kissed him softly on his forehead, whispering through her tears, For the ones at home who loved you, and stood watching as 6 men carried him away to the tiny cemetery under the trees. On a hill, vesper services were over, and the weary minister and his congregation had gone before Duncan found courage to open and read his letter. His elder brother, heir to the title and great houses and landed estates of his family, had been killed in the hunting field, and he, being next in line, was to come home to succeed to the position. William Duncan Claiborne, Earl of, but no, his family name had never been told in California. Portions of the services he had heard that day drifted through his mind. Whosoever shall not receive the kingdom of God as a little child, he shall not enter therein. Asterisk, asterisk. Asterisk, we do sign him with the sign of the cross in token hereafter that he shall manfully fight against the sin, the world, and the devil, and to continue Christ's faithful soldier unto his life's end. So, the child starting on his earthly journey with the minister's blessing and the backing of 20 godfathers. The holy old church service which he had heard at home in stately English cathedrals, the nuggets in the contribution plate, the radiant bride who had come across the plains to hear, Dearly beloved, we are gathered together, standing beside the man she loved. The service for the dying. When we shall have served thee in our generation, we may be gathered unto our fathers, having the testimony of a good conscience, the confidence of a certain faith, in favor with thee our God, and in perfect charity with the world. So, Jim Muldoon, cut down before his time, and his slayer out there in the darkness on the end of a rope. The dying candle picked out in flame, a withered cabbage rose under the table, a baby's mitten, the letter written for the man who had died, the Mexican sombrero on a chair, the gilt sun and moon and stars on the glass face of the grandfather clock by the window. Duncan's head fell forward in his clasped arms on the table. And in his dreams he heard the huntsman's silver horn from across the seas calling him home to carry on the destiny of the ancient and honorable name, which was his strike of pay or in his land of gold. The candle wick in a shallow pool of tallow flared high, and went out. The old clock chimed 12. The Tom Bell stronghold.
2.
You smile. Oh, poet.
And what do you?
You lean from your window and watch life's column trampling and struggling through dust and dew, filled with its purposes grave and solemn, an act, a gesture, a face, who knows? And you pluck from your bosom the verse that grows, and down it flies like my red rose, and you sit and dream as away it goes, and think that your duty is done now.
Don't you?
Bret Harte. In the early days it was called the Mountaineer House. Now it is colloquially known as the Stone House, and has for 60 years been the home of the Owen King family. It is surrounded today by one of the most beautiful orchards in the foothills. Wide verandas of the native gray granite to match the old house itself have been added. It is electrically lighted and furnace heated, modern in every way. Yet still the romance of former times seems to cling to its sturdy old walls. All that remain unchanged are 3 huge trees flanking the highway in front. What tales they could tell, if they would, of what passed by the junction of 2 roads beneath them, of the long and weary caravans from across the plains crawling up from the bridge at Whiskey Bar, below Rattlesnake, glad that their 6-month struggle was nearly over, of horsemen on beautiful Spanish horses riding furiously, whither no one knew nor dared ask, of dark deeds in the old stone house below, that was so inscrutably quiet by day and so mysteriously alive by night, of ghastly doings by the Tom Bell gang which ranged all the way from the Oregon border to the southern lakes. They will never tell all they know, these big old trees, of those who went in by the door and came out by the cellar, of Tom Bell's stronghold. In the end the place fell, in the war between order and lawlessness, and, as the pessimists love to assert, a woman, as usual, was the cause of it. The tale is told. Rosa Phillips sat in the Mountaineer House strumming a Spanish guitar and singing. There's a turned-down page, as some writer says, in every human life, a hidden story of happier days, of peace amidst the strife, a folded-down leaf, which the world knows not, a love dream rudely crushed, the sight of a face that is not forgot, although the voice be hushed. She rose and stood at a window, holding the dusty curtain aside with one white hand and peering cautiously forth into the dusk. A horse was galloping up the Folsom Road. The horseman was near, was under the trees in front, was past, and gone down the river road without slackening his animal's rapid gait. He does not stop at the Mountaineer House these days, said Tom Bell's sneering voice at her elbow. There is a new actress at the Opera House in Rattlesnake. The woman's dark eyes flashed, but she answered evenly enough. He does not stop. The handsome Dick. So you, Senor, have not the cause to be jealous. Is it not so? Cause?
Why?
You Spanish jade. You've never been the same to me since Rattlesnake Dick came prowling back from Shasta County to his old haunts in Placer.